But first, I just really want to thank the Delicios. Jean, unfortunately, was not able to be here today. She lives over in Trinidad, and it was like she couldn't even get out of her driveway. It's way bad over in Trinidad. So she sends her regrets and thanks everyone for attending and coming in their beautiful historic building. And they, of course, provided the coffee and all the great snacks from Zancana Bakery that you guys hopefully got to taste. And again, if anyone's interested in hosting one of these, we're looking to travel around the community to be able to raise awareness for all the different buildings, businesses, and organizations that are here in Raton. So let me know if you're interested in that. And just as a reminder, the guiding principles of the meeting, just to be attentive, to be respectful, to be transparent, and to keep thinking about who's not here that needs to be here. What businesses aren't represented, what people, what communities are not represented in the business and organizational community of Raton. So let's keep building our network here. So let's see. So I don't want to spend too much time, and I would just want to give it up to our guests that drove all the way here, even in this inclement weather. So we appreciate our state EDD rep, Tim Hagaman, for joining us, and I'll turn the floor over to him.
Thank you.
So if you could just stand in this vicinity with him.
I want to thank Ann, City of Raton, Colfax County, the Delicios for hosting this event today. I wonder what the Delicios department store had for a succession plan for us to be sitting in their old department store today. So we'll be talking about working with the New Mexico Economic Development Department, who I work for. We have Cabinet Secretary Interim Mark Roper as our secretary, and he works for Governor Lujan Grisham. So today we want to talk about one of the words that I learned on the radio this morning, and I'd like to introduce Rita, was historical trauma. That was something that I had never heard before. So I wanted to talk about some projects that this area has worked on, businesses that have not had succession plans, and businesses that have done a tremendous job moving on their business plan. I always bring a prop. I collect maps and rare books, and this is a map of the Raton Coal and Coke Company. Many of you have heard about the coal company through the years. What was their succession plan? They probably just sold it. That's the easiest succession plan that you can have, is to sell your business. So we're going to talk about that. So some of the tools that a succession plan can come from is the Economic Development Department has a toolbox. These are state incentives to go with local incentives. And I always talk about how local government will provide local incentives, such as the city of Raton, but it's the businesses that will finish projects. And that's what you represent here, is finishing succession planning. So during our life, we always have timeouts in our life. At 27, I had a timeout. You have cancer. I worked for General Electric at the time. And General Electric is famous for its key employees. At that time, Jack Welch, that I worked for, he was always talking about being number one and number two in your market. Otherwise, you would be sold. So they were famous for bringing on new executives that would take on the presidential leadership. And they made a big deal about it in the press on who's being considered for the successor. And then if they were not selected as a successor, then many of them would become presidents of other corporations, like Jim McMurtry, who went on to work for Boeing. So one of the things that we want to make sure is that you have a successor. Would you like to be my successor of my business?
I don't know what your business is.
Okay. I recently asked, what is your succession plan, sir?
My successor plan?
Yes, sir.
I had 4 of them.
Okay, he's very prepared. Recently, I had an answer, my niece, my 9-year-old niece is my succession plan. That's even better for a family, is to always plant those seeds within family members so that someday, after they graduate and want to come back to Raton, they will say, I remember talking to my aunt about owning this business. I want to be her successor. So one of the things that we want to talk about is some other projects through the years. We've got some great solutions, such as employee-owned company here in Raton that took over the business as employees. It's called an ESOP. So we want to utilize the toolbox for succession planning. So, right now I'm applying for Medicare this summer. How exciting to be 65. And most of our country, 18% of our country is attaining that age. But how about if Cy, chairman of our county commission, would you be interested in taking over my business?
Possibly, we'd have to talk some.
Okay. Did you know that I could have a buy-sell agreement so that I could pay for your life insurance at less than $100 for a 65-year-old? And once you die, we can use that money to buy your business? What better way is to have the life insurance pay for buying that business? So that's called estate planning. We want to involve our professionals such as insurance agents, accountants, Grow Raton, City of Raton, Colfax County. These are all of our partners that we want to establish a network within our community so that we can identify these assets that we own so that we can be a successor to that business. The professional to address how most of the people that are having a challenge in regards to succession is fear. And we want to break that barrier of fear with ideas so that what's the fear? Well, I don't have anybody to take over the business. Well, would you be willing to share a year of income with this younger person that's willing to take over the business? So every person that comes to their business every day, you should ask that person, would you be willing to be a successor to my business? Or it might be in your church, or it might be in the schools, working with the teachers and the principals. Identify the people that want to be an entrepreneur. And there are many businesses that specialize in buying businesses. So we want to make sure that we connect those people that are willing to stay and establish a business or buy a business before we lose them to moving out of our towns. So how do we do that? Well, in the state of New Mexico Economic Development Department, we've implemented a business retention and expansion program where regional reps like myself spend about 60% of our time going to see businesses and asking questions such as, what is your succession plan? Do you plan on expanding? What are the biggest issues in your business? Is it workforce? Is it financing? I just talking to our chairman of Colfax County Commission that I need an insurance policy for an area that has been burned. And he came up with a solution. He is on my professional team. And it really makes a difference having a team effort. So during this BNRE call, we identify such as creating a BNRE program within Grow Raton, so that we can put together a strategic plan on how to address needs of our community. We want to make the conversion of a business visitation and surveying a business so that we can identify all the key areas that's important to them, so that we can follow up with a visit to identify solutions. And then we identify technical assistance, follow-up. Let's take, for instance, we have an outdoor recreation equity fund. We want to be able to make sure that they're applying for that. We have a healthy food financing fund. We want to make sure that we're in front of them before that deadline. And then we want to get their business in order. Make sure that financing is identified, linking owners of capital. We have a collateral assistance program where we put a CD in International Bank across the street, where they have a barrier to finishing a loan, and we take that lack of collateral or and put that CD in the bank so that the banker feels more comfortable about making that loan and moving forward with that expansion. Mergers and acquisitions. And then disaster recovery. We've had a lot of fires in the northeastern New Mexico. And we want to be able to go deep into that business plan that we're working with the Small Business Development Center, so that that business plan is updated so that they can take it to the next generation to take over that business. Strategies. During our, after the fire, the department was able to put $1.5 million toward businesses that were affected by the fire, and put that money toward capital that they had lost during the fire. Luckily, we've had a lot of federal funding to be able to do that. Normally, with our anti-donation clause, we're not able to do that except with manufacturing and out-of-state products and services. So some of the solutions that we offer is SBA, disaster recovery, economic development administration. We want to make sure that many of the film projects are being applied for with EDA. HUD is the Housing Urban Development. That is CDBG, so that the city is applying and the county has been given training so that they can apply toward projects such as Barella Timber Works in Las Vegas that is receiving money to buy equipment to upgrade their forestry sawmill so that we can get the trees out of the forest before they decay. USDA has housing that allows vacant structures to be rebuilt even when they're not occupied. So that's a great program right now. We have a tourism clean and beautiful program grant available right now, as well, so that we can clean up some of these houses in neighborhoods that are not easy on the eyes, and help the owners of these structures realize that's not such a bad place to live. Let's help someone take over that property that's been vacant for many years and improve our housing issue. And then we have a federal technology program transfer with science and technology out of our department and offering grants to help those technology businesses have shared spaces to work with and be with other like-kind businesses. In summary, BNRE programs go beyond the technical assistance. As an individual business is facing retirement, closure, and relocation, acting as a buffer to providing resources and advocate networking teams. And one of the things that I learned with my father, he's 92, and when he was at 80 years old, he had enough. He wanted to retire, but he was a one-man operation. He was the business. There were no other assets that were involved in that conveying of the business. So his plan was just to shut the door. But I asked him, would you be willing to allow me to come back and take over the business? And, you know, he wasn't all that thrilled about it. And obviously I had a great job and I wouldn't have left my job. But at least I asked the question, and I think that we need to be prepared as family owners to be able to have those conversations, to be comfortable about conveying our businesses. And it can be as simple as taking over the accounts receivable or the building across the street with International Bank where they sold that building to an investor that is going to make it into a former Swatska and Yucca hotel. And we want to make those connections for these businesses. One of the things that I participated in was a graduate student out of New Mexico State wrote a succession plan graduate paper. And we want to identify the next generation owner and start as a lender and a successor to these businesses. New Mexico State's Department of Agriculture, Taylor Hayes, put together this assessment, and his mission was to assess the engagement of New Mexico businesses in a Master of Agriculture in May of 21st of succession planning. His small businesses, and there are in 2019, there were 339,000 people working for small businesses. Private workforce in the family was 54%. And he encouraged of having a plan for certain events: death, disability, retirement, disaster, and just getting older and wanting to retire. The primary purpose of the survey was to study a level of readiness and understanding of succession planning, and provide a service of providers, such as professionals, to be able to meet with businesses, have your attorney, your insurance agent, your accountant, all there to help them through that process. Identify the definitions of activities involved in planning, leadership, transition. As a group, we as leaders in this community have to be able to network and set up a committee so that we can make sure that these businesses that you rely on each day will be in business in the next generation. That involves selecting and training a successor, creating a vision and a strategic plan Taylor talks about. Most family businesses fail in the second generation, so take control sooner than later. Many of the respondents in the survey were talking about farm succession plans, ranching. Make sure that you're having a conversation with the probate judge here at the Colfax County. Make sure that you're prepared. You know, I think of Philmont as my first stop in New Mexico as I came here in 1974. And I'd like to reach out to you and say, I'm one of those million scouts that came through the train for the last 3 or 4 decades. If you put together a campaign and ask those scouts to come back to Colfax County, we've got a great opportunity of bringing workforce back into this community and having the next generation. Just like identifying one person in a high-paying job, they bring in 3 or 4 other family members that could be a police officer, could be an accountant, any of the positions that you're looking for under the trading post every day. It's all about bringing those families into your community. And I challenge you to invite all 1 million of those scouts to come back to Colfax County, because I know that they're thinking about this beautiful country that I enjoyed when I came here before I earned my Eagle Scout. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. And I'll just, I already introduced myself, but again, my name is Rita Veleta, and I work for the JEDI office, which is the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion office within economic development. And just to add in a few things to what Tim was talking about succession planning, I think one of the really important things that younger generations are looking for are to see that either this owner or this business is willing to invest in us, that we have the opportunity to access professional development opportunities, whether that be attending a conference, or if you are the business owner here today, maybe next month you can have one of your employees be here and be involved in these conversations. So giving them that opportunity for growth is really important to our generation, especially because higher education isn't as accessible as it used to be, and it can be quite expensive. So if there's anything like that, taking advantage of it is important. And as Tim talked about, having your financial statements in place is really important. So looking for that CPA or that lawyer or whoever it may be that can help you put that together is really important. And I'd like to use that to plug one of the programs that we have that is going to be starting soon. We got $2.7 million from the federal government, from Treasury, to start our state small business credit initiative, which basically they gave us funding to be able to touch businesses that are considered socially and economically disadvantaged, or very small businesses. And so the way that the JEDI office approached that was that we are going to be using some of that funding. We put out an RFP, and so we have a few businesses and organizations that will be hosting technical assistance sessions. So training workshops with professionals like lawyers, like CPAs, like financial advisors, that will talk about all of these important topics. And if you're a part of those sessions, you will be able to access one-to-one assistance with that professional, and it will be paid through that program. I don't know exactly what those projects look like yet, but we do know that we did put in a request for those that were applying to have some of these sessions be held hybrid, so in person and online. So I'll make sure to get that to Anne whenever that becomes available, so that you all can access those trainings online, and hopefully we can impact this area as well. And the last thing, just to add to what Tim said, was the importance of being open to change. I don't think it's easy if you've been working for 25 years on a business, and this is your heart and soul and everything, and it's what has brought the income to your family for so many years. But just keeping an open mind can go a really long way, especially because once you see someone coming in and making some changes, it can be a little bit of pushback from business owners. So just always keeping that in the back of your head. And so I'll start just telling you all a little bit more about some of the other initiatives that we have in the JEDI office. The office was established by my colleague Shawnee Harvey when we had our former cabinet secretary Alicia Keys, and together they identified that we needed an office that would be working with communities that have been for so long underserved and underrepresented to connect them to resources in their language or in their area or even in other parts of the state. And we also needed somebody to advocate for those small businesses that for so long have been left in the margins. And so that's how the JEDI office was born. And so just know that we are here to support you all. And as I talked about in the radio this morning, so I know you said you heard it, we do recognize that there is a lot of historical trauma when it comes to connecting with state government for so many communities, because there has been so many situations where the government has approached some communities and the communities haven't seen the full benefit of those initiatives that the government has had. And so sometimes there's a little bit of a mistrust. So creating that trust in the community is part of what we want to do, and which is why we're here in the community and letting you all know that we're here to be an advocate for you all. Next slide. Tim already talked about CAP, but these are just some of the CAP enrolled lenders. And if there is a lender that you're working with that is not on our list of CAP lenders, we can definitely work with them to get them into the program. And that way, if like Tim said, if you have any shortcomings when it comes to collateral, we can pledge those funds for you. And then I think if you go back, Tim, the cap uses, and the color changed a little, I'm sorry, but you can see some of the uses. So you could use cap lending to pay for startup costs, to buy more inventory, equipment, working capital, and so many other things. Okay, next. And one thing I'd like to plug that we actually sent out and we finally launched today is our business resource map and directory. We've been working on this for the past year, and so we worked with a contractor who helped us identify all of the business resource providers that are in the state. And obviously they're not all on there because not everyone has an online presence, and sometimes if you're not in the town, you don't know who that resource is. And so that's what this resource map is for. It's kind of like the toolbox that Tim was talking about, but it's in an online platform that we're constantly updating. So if you have a resource that you go into our directory and realize that it's not listed, you could request for it to be listed. And if you are looking for any type of assistance, you can go in there and find assistance based on the community of interest. If you're like women-owned or if you're indigenous-owned, you could filter by whatever applies to you so that you could find resource centers or other types of assistance that are dedicated to you. And so it's a really great tool. I really hope you'll get the opportunity to take a look at it. And also, we have our newsletter and wrap-up, which basically we will be sending out highlighted resources such as grant opportunities or community events that you all could take advantage of. So if you want to sign up for our newsletter, that's a great way to stay informed on everything that is happening across the state, not only with EDD, but other departments and communities. And the toolbox, we also have that available on our website, which is where we update it more frequently as well, and it is available in Spanish as well. And lastly, I'll just leave my contact information. That is my work cell, and you can't see my email too well, but I have my business cards with me. So feel free to come up and chat and see if there's any type of resource you are looking for. If we don't have it in EDD, we will look for it and help you get whatever that assistance may be. Thank you.
Some of the examples I'd like to go back with is whenever we're working on a project, we want to be able to be able to convey those assets into the new ownership. And I was talking about the example of being at 65. If you were to do a buy-sell life insurance policy on a key employee or on a successor, it would be less than $100 a month for someone at 65 to be able to fund $100,000 to buy that business. So that's one of the tools that you can use is a buy-sell agreement. The other examples that I wanted to mention were with community projects. We've gone from the coal mines to the racetrack. Some of that historical trauma that Rita was talking about, for years talking about when are the racetracks coming back. Well, what was their succession plan? Well, eventually the city of Raton came up with a great local incentive in applying for a racino. That became a long-winded project for years. How did that become a positive? Well, you know, when I visited with Scott Berry and I was a tribal liaison for our department, I mentioned that we should have a communication with our local tribes because this was their local homeland. Why not ask that conversation? Are you interested in becoming a successor to some of these projects? And that's why I'm so excited to see some of these. Take, for instance, the Racino property I drove by today. They're having communication with the Picaris Pueblo. Talk about a need for succession with the Picaris Pueblo. They have less than 80 people in their tribe. They need projects like that to employ their tribe and bring back their younger folks that have moved on from the Pueblo. And what better way of helping them is to identify an industrial site that could become a job creation and bring wealth back into their tribe with commercial operations, and also take a dead asset, which my uncle used to always love to talk about, and he was a former GE executive, that take that dead asset and give it to someone that is going to do something with that. And that's why we want to offer succession plans, not only in businesses, but in projects. We've got the city of Raton, a great example of where, with the Coors building, they've done an RFP so that we can bring in people that want to occupy a building. So Raton has been a perfect example of how to take a community and turn it around with new projects and new growth and bringing in new money from outside of our community. And that's why economic development and businesses that we recruit from out of state is so important to continue the succession of these manufacturing high-wage jobs, that every community needs a higher wage job earner with someone is doing retail or home ownership, so that it levels out their goals in their life in regards to the lifestyle that they need. So there are examples that we've seen industry leave this area, such as gun cluster manufacturing. We used to make gun barrels in this town. We had 3 manufacturers. And in that one example, one was at retirement age, and we needed to bring in a team to work with them so that they would sell that to an eligible business. Instead, we ended up having just someone that could operate the machinery. Some of that machinery went back to the Civil War, and then that person really didn't operate it like it had been in the past. but they have the knowledge and the experience which you want to have in a new business. But you need to make sure that they have the capacity and the financial background to be able to succeed with that new business. I'd like to open it up to questions before I turn it over to Ann in regards to the questions that we would like you as a group to start asking the questions. What is your succession plan? Can I identify some successors in key businesses in our community? And how can we work with the workforce? We have some great people that advocate for workforce and programs, and how can we create a network within this group to work together on a regular basis? Any questions?
What did you start your succession plan?
I think that any time that you're operating a business, you need to identify your key employees and have a conversation, whether it's a family member or a non-family member. You are my successor. I want you to know that you really make a difference in this business. So it could be very early. And if they're not interested, that's okay. You can adapt that succession plan to work with those key employees. And that person may end up moving on to another opportunity or starting their own business. But at least you've been able to identify that you are my successor. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any examples, or have you yourself worked with any succession planning with people that own like specific buildings? So specific to Raton, we have a bunch of families that own all these old buildings in town, and then or even houses, and they leave town, they move, and it's basically a seasonal thing, or they get older, and then they give the building to their kiddos, but the kiddos never step foot in Raton. They've never stepped foot in here for 50 years. So have you ever had an example where you're trying to build succession planning for like downtown buildings or anything like that?
Where I live in Mora, we have many generational cultural assets that are tied up with families of 100 people in their ownership. So it's a matter of putting together an inventory of your assets in your historic district. That was one of the things that we did with a Leeds project with Grow Raton, is they were able to identify all the business owners, come up with an inventory on who owns this property. Are they willing to give that property to Grow Raton or Raton Main Street? Are they willing to sell? Are they willing to lease? All those things, so that we can have a conversation between the professionals. One of the things that I always encourage when it comes to small businesses is, I know of businesses that are willing to sell, but are they really realistic in today's society price-wise, so that we can get the next generation to be able to take over the businesses? One way to do that is to share the 1 year of revenue with that potential owner, so that the existing owner will give up that revenue for a year, and that money goes toward the purchase of that business. So we want to make it as easy as possible to make that transition. But for the people that aren't interested in vacant buildings, or any type of building, we want to make sure that how can we get them compensated, whether it's through real estate contract. That is another way of allowing a young person to buy a business if they don't qualify in a bank. Now, we've got hundreds of options in regards to financing, but if you want to create a home owner finance, such as a real estate contract on your building to the younger generation, that's one of the easiest ways to convey wealth. is to put together a 10-year contract where they paid it on a monthly basis back to that owner. And then eventually that deed becomes that new owner's property. Yes, ma'am?
You mentioned that people should have a team to help them plan. Who would be ideal to be on that team? Like what kinds of skill sets would you say should be on that plan,
Well,
on the team?
you know, the Business Retention and Expansion Program is made for the Economic Development Organization to meet with businesses on a daily basis. But a part of that Economic Development Organization should have a realtor. That's a part of that team, an accountant, an attorney, an insurance agent, people that help convey assets. And it may be just a personal asset like my father had. He was the business. He was the broker for selling product, but he didn't own anything other than the income that he was coming in and bringing in. Okay.
Oh, I want to bring up one real quick comment about the financing part in defense of renting out to, prospective entrepreneurs coming in and stuff like that. You have to kind of blame it somewhat on insurance and property tax. So that's why they're a little bit high on their rent request, because it's driven by insurance. Number one, I think that's the biggest one. And the second one is, property tax. So when you pay those two every month, you gotta pass it on to your, rentee or possible, renter, whatever, and it's hard to do that because you have to be high because you have got to pay those two big ones right there. So that's the driver for the high rates.
You're exactly right. I always encourage people that are interested in real estate is to visit the assessor's office at your county. And as you drive through your town and you see a vacant property, take that address down and go pay your assessor a visit, and they will tell you exactly who that owner is for that property. And then they'll give you a screenshot, and it'll show what the value is, what their taxes are, what it's the assessed value at, and most importantly, it'll give you an address. So contact that person and write them a letter and ask them, I think your property could be beautiful. I really care about making this a business that we need in our community. Would you be willing to sell this property? And it really starts there.
All right. All right, so we can move into the small group discussion. So if you guys, I think most of you have been through this before. I think no one's new here. So I'm going to give you guys some worksheets and just maybe get with the 3 or 4 people around you, or however you want to do it, and then just work on these sheets. One thing I would challenge you that I just thought of when he was talking that's not on here is that we should probably think through is who could be on your team to do succession planning, and who are the young people who are not even young, but who are the 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, let alone the 20-year-olds that could potentially take over your business, or how could you find them? So just be thinking about that as well, and if you think of anything, jot it down. I also want to take this opportunity, while I have everyone's attention, to let you know that Miss Lynette Simpson here is going to host us next month at the high school. So we're going to meet at the high school to sort of continue this conversation about young people in our community and how to get them into career tracks that we all need, and other career tracks that are available to them at the high school now, and ones that are growing as well. So it's going to be really exciting. Also, apprentice and internship opportunities that the high school is going to be looking to get young people into in our community as well. So we'll continue this conversation and keep it growing. And then the plan in May is to talk about marketing. And so we're going to also have Melita from the city. She's been working with Placer AI. I think I mentioned that in the last meeting. So she'll have some information to give you about that, as well as Patricia's talking about Explore Raton and some of the things coming up this summer. So just want to do that before everybody breaks up, because usually it starts to become a little bit chaotic. So, okay.
So our first question was regional inventory of businesses. We thought there was an issue with accountants, lawyers, and agents, and insurance agents. And that you did mention that Grow Raton has an inventory of businesses?
Tim mentioned that.
Oh, Tim mentioned that.
Yes.
I'm like, somebody mentioned that, and I was like, that is awesome. So that's all we had underneath that.
Okay. So you guys just gonna do one topic and then each person goes?
Shall we do that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So do you guys have anything to add to that first one?
No, I was going to skip to the regional assets. So we actually said that we had quite a bit of banking and insurance here in the area.
Okay, one of the things that we noted was that it's kind of difficult to eat in this town. That there seems to be issues when people open restaurants that cause them to not be open for regular hours and running into, I don't know, sort of issues with the community. We weren't quite clear on that, but regional assets, main thing is that this town's really well situated, especially if you're trying to draw people off of the interstate. I know that I personally chose this place to open a business because by the time you get from Las Vegas to here or driving up from Santa Fe, you really want something to do. Like you really, like if people want to get off the road and rest or find something with a little bit of novelty by about the point that they get here. There's a friendly community here. Specifically, I didn't open in Trinidad because I didn't really feel like the community there was very friendly towards new businesses. It seems like they like to fight a lot on Facebook. It's kind of strange, and the people here don't seem to do that, which is good. That's a lot going for you. Just as an entrepreneur, if you research a town and you see everybody arguing with each other online, you don't really want to go there. You want to find somewhere else. Similarly, this town has a lot of original architecture that's extremely well preserved. Something about the climate, that most of the buildings here, despite how old they are in much better shape than very similar buildings in different parts of the country or even different parts of the region. The fact that large corporations haven't remodeled anything in the downtown is actually an asset. It kind of, how do I put it? For example, in terms of like films, or simply attracting visitors to town that want to experience something that's a lot more like older times. That's very helpful to not have giant signs for a McDonald's across the street and stuff. It kind of ruins everything. And this town, you've managed to put all that growth out by the highway, and that keeps the downtown very nice. That's about it for us.
As far as what plans could be put in place to, what is needed but missing, this one, we talked about maybe creating more of a co-op type of program in the high school so that kids could intern with local businesses, whether it's a skilled labor or learning office work type of thing. That, there are maybe some programs like that, but we could strengthen that more. But I think that you can speak more to that.
No. I'm going to tell you all about that next month. So come on down to high school.
I think on that one with what you can put into place, we were talking about sometimes like if you look at your customer base and you look at maybe those top 2 customers who, if you went out of business right now, that they would stand the most to lose. And maybe those are those are the people that you need to approach about your succession plan. If you make, a certain product and you buy a component from this company, and this company is looking to go out of business, and you're not gonna be able to get that component from somewhere else, maybe, you're the perfect person to buy that business and, succeed in keeping that business opening. Because if you keep it going, you maintain that institutional knowledge of the employees that are there, the skills that are there. And I've seen that, done quite effectively elsewhere. And I think also too, if you are relying on family as your succession plan, you have to, maybe reevaluate things occasionally, because situations change. We were talking about a friend of ours that has a business that, like the likely successor would be, one of the family members, but now that family member is dealing with a serious illness. So, then who's next? So, you kind of have to start that succession plan early, but constantly reevaluate and, look at things because circumstances change.
And so the next question was, what plans could be put in place to retain current businesses? We thought that more meet and greets with people who are wanting to invest. So we know that there are some people that have $50,000 or $75,000. Maybe they want to invest in something, but they know they can't afford everything for a business. And if they could find a way to connect with other people with that money, then maybe 2 or 3 people could go into a business and take over that business. And then we need to market more to, we need to have we need to have something for young people to do here. And really, I know it was brought up that we want to cater to the older generation here, but we also need to realize there's a lot of kids here, and there's nothing, there is stuff for families to do, don't get me wrong, there is. But we need to expand those programs a little bit more. I remember and I was telling them, I remember when my children were growing up here, and we had the Raton recreational program in the summers, and my kids were busy from one, that's all I did was drive them around from one activity to the other. And it didn't cost me very much money at all, like $25 for a volleyball camp. $35 for them to go play a round of golf and get golf lessons twice a week. They had tennis in the summer. We went to the library, which was free. We went swimming. There was all these programs, and we need to bring some of those back so that the cycle of there's nothing to do, we have to go out of town ends. And we need to break that kind of thing so that little kids have, and I'm thinking about that because my grandchildren now, I want them to stay here. And if I can't find things for them to do, then they're going to move away and I'm going to be sad. And I don't want to be sad. I want to be happy. All of you want me to be happy. Just kidding. And then education of selling businesses. We just need some more of that. What is for sale? And and bringing those two people together, maybe.
Now, I will say to that point, there is a list of businesses on the Grow Raton website that are for sale, or commercial spaces that are for sale. So that would be something that people could look at if they're looking to start a new business and they're looking for a space to move into. That is available on our website.
Something that we talked about but didn't quite get mentioned was that a lot of times businesses can work together synergistically and they can help each other grow, not even necessarily without working together. So for example, one of my ideas is I'm trying to build something that's upstairs that people will come pay $15 to go see, but I'll be pulling people off the interstate and using billboards from hundreds of miles away, hopefully, the cheap ones, and get them to come downstairs and park their cars right here and come look at my thing for an hour. And what I'm really hoping is that other people in the area will see this happening and they'll say, okay, well, maybe I can reinvest a little bit of money in making my cafe work a little bit better. Maybe more people around would encourage local business owners to be open more days and that sort of thing. And that would help me immensely. And in the same way that me bringing people downtown, which is something I know I can do, that would help them. Whereas your job would be to feed them, which I can't do. I'm a terrible cook. So a lot of times businesses, like, you don't necessarily need to directly cooperate or have clubs that get together or anything, but simply by like business owners working in an aligned direction, you can really help each other out a lot.
Yeah, to add on to what you were just saying, so my husband and I own the Raton Pass Motor Inn, which some of you know.
It's cool.
We get a lot of people who come through who are looking at places to retire. So I keep a small list of local realtors, and no pressure. I say, if you are interested in Raton and want to learn more about it, here are some people that I would contact. And I've actually had some people who have made the connection with one or two of the realtors and say, thank you so much for doing that. I'm in the process of buying my house now. And that is so gratifying. But another thing that we do is we have kind of a partnership with Dulces and Encantados, and they make, just for us, these chocolate mint candies that we put in the rooms that are shaped like mice for Raton. And we put those in the room, so. Yeah.
Can I add something? Supporting each other is really important too, and I don't think businesses support each other enough. Like, I have a dance studio, recital time, the flower shop benefits from my business because a lot of folks get flowers for their children. Discount office right here, they benefit. I do all my stuff there. All Seasons does, they get some ballet looking things for the kids and all that, because those kids get a lot of things for recital week. I think that's really important that we support each other and that we spread the money around, that we just don't. And I don't think a lot of us do that. And I think it's important.
As a follow-up on that comment, I totally agree with you for sure, but how about corporate, some of the corporate businesses here in Raton? Is there a list, or are they giving out? I mean, are they participating in getting into Grow Raton? Are they giving any type of funding to them? I mean, McDonald's and Costco or whatever like that. There's a bunch of kind of big box store, I want to say, businesses that, not box store, but I mean basically corporate businesses that are, I don't see them coming here. I don't see them anywhere.
Some do and some don't. They pick and choose which organizations that they support and that they don't. Some are much more involved than others. InBank is pretty involved in the community here in the region. The business Toscasco, that I always struggle with that word. Yeah. They support Grow Raton as members, and they have also been sponsors of ours for some of our events in the past. So.
And I can speak I'm a Raton Main Street board member also, and when we ask, I think almost everybody has said yes. So when we have all of our events downtown, McDonald's gives us a huge check for all of our kids' events. So then we do charge a little bit. We don't make a lot of money from Grow Raton or from the Raton Balloon Rally. That's not our moneymaker, but they do support those events.
Great.
Yeah.
Just like I said, I hadn't seen them. I thought maybe a couple would be here or whatever.
And of course, Phil Longford is represented here, and I'm represented as well.
Try to do as much for the community as I
No,
possibly
I know
can
you
think
guys
of.
do. No, you're here, see, and
And I'm
that
always
makes a difference.
open, and I state this every time I'm on the radio and everything else. If anybody has any ideas on something that I could do that I haven't thought of yet, come to me. We could work together. I am willing to try anything for the kids, for community involvement, to better the community, to do anything.
yeah, you can tell us
Yeah.
why you're here.
Yeah, just come to me and we could sit down and have a conversation and see what we could get going. I am planning a block party I have some stuff to get together for that, but it's gonna be really, really big. I've got food trucks, cornhole tournaments, Disney princesses. I've got a lot going on, so.
So I would just like to give Shannon a huge kudos, because like all the hearts during Valentine's Day, that was Shannon. Like, you know, they had a window contest. I mean, she had, for St. Patrick's Day, green popcorn, green stuff, just come on down, I'll give you a gift card. I mean, she's really activating the community to do some fun stuff. So it's great.
I have two little points that I'd like to touch on with business succession and everything else. A lot of the times what wasn't mentioned too is, for me, like in my insurance business, I have partners. So when they I have no problem doing business with them now. They're great, they're wonderful, love them. But I don't want to do business with their children. So nothing against their children, but you know, they don't know the insurance business. They're a dentist, or they work in finance or something like that. So it's not insurance, and that's why it's important. We have a buyout agreement. Once whoever passes away, the business buys back the shares and then gets redivided amongst that. But also something that we took into consideration on our succession planning is our clients. So let's say we just all drop dead tomorrow, our business will continue on, but it's through so if I die, we kind of sold out years ago, but not really sold out. What we did is re-merged with a larger insurance company. We still maintain ownership of our book and everything else, but what we do is if anytime we wanted to say we're kind of out, we could go to them and say, hey, we want out, what would you give us for our book? And since it's kind of already set up like that, it's going to make it easy for my wife or whoever the business, you know, goes to. And it would, all that ease and everything else and the easiness of the process of that change would actually, it's going to benefit my family more in adding an extra percentage to the ease of the transfership of ownership for that succession. So those are just some extra stuff to think about.
And I did want to add too, something that we talked about is, and I'm going to use Zellers for example, because that's the one that we used, but so they're what to sell, okay? Mm-hmm. So let's say somebody wants to invest, they have this money, but I don't know anything about that business like that. Why can't the businesses that are selling hold some sort of training and say anybody that's interested in possibly purchasing this and wants to learn about how my business is run, come down. So we do this training, we go over how this works, what this does, what resources you could use to teach yourself and to learn or to use to better your company. And then after that, if you're still interested, okay, then we'll go to the next level of training, and the people that aren't interested in it can go, and the people that are can come back. Mm-hmm. So maybe people aren't buying because of lack of knowledge on how to run that business. Mm-hmm. So if we put those trainings out there, these businesses, maybe more people might go and say, okay, well, let me see what I can do. This could be something that I'm interested in.
Yeah,
and you could even get younger people involved in
yeah,
training, like
absolutely.
the high schoolers, just, you know, not even when you're ready to sell, but just thinking about years ahead, be like,
yeah, absolutely.
Get someone in the community interested in learning how to do this stuff.
Yeah, and she actually, when I spoke with her, she said she'd be willing to like stay on a year to train somebody.
Yeah.
But that she can't even really get any young people to just work for her, let alone to start training. Yeah. So I think, you know, I mean, that's kind of the next question, and I think that's where it's important to think about the high school is how do we get young people interested in businesses that aren't something that might not be their own family business. They weren't raised in, they don't understand, they don't know, they maybe don't see the value in it. Like, you know, how many young people use dry cleaners? They don't maybe get it, what the importance of it is. But when you start to explain to them, and that it's like the only dry cleaners for like 100 miles in any direction from here, that's like a great business, right? That's a great business to have. Somebody should take that over. But yeah, I think that's right. I think maybe, you know, we should start looking at how can we invite people to businesses to start learning more about them and having open houses. And I think, do you want to talk about the...
Not yet.
Okay, all right.
Because I'm getting, through this discussion, I just want to add like an evolution of
ideas.
my ideas, so I don't want to, yeah. Something great is coming, that's all I'm gonna say.
And I got one more. You made a comment about it being hard to eat and hard for restaurants to stay open. I personally have noticed, I've been here 2 years, and I've seen at least 2 restaurants close down because of people getting health issues. One restaurant closed down because their son had health issues. I'm not sure what they were, but they had to move to be closer to better health care. The Ice House just closed down because the owner got cancer. There's like basic health services here, but there's not specialty health services. So when people get like a serious illness, there's not like the healthcare around to provide for them without them having to drive hours. So I don't know. That's like one more thing that would just help retain people, but I don't know how to bring that here. You know.
Well, having new school will hopefully help with that because it will attract more, more professional level people will feel comfortable living in a place that has like a good high school for their children.
Also, I'd like to add, I come from a place where all the professional level people are leaving. Like Florida, all the doctors are leaving Florida. All of the professors are leaving Florida.
Yeah.
There's several states in America where right now a really large portion of the population is looking to move somewhere else. And so making this area more attractive to those people would help out tremendously. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's already 12:45, so, and a lot of people have left. But thank you everyone for staying. This was a really important discussion, and I think like we need to keep weaving this through all of the conversations that we're having in our community. It's very important. We have a much, I think the mean age in Raton is like 49 years old or something. So we have an older population. We need to get some younger people to take on businesses, or we're going to get less and less and less businesses here. So thank you all. Please tour the exhibit here and see the Lisio building. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.